Former Afghan refugee Najeeba Wazifados is calling on Australia to help women and children flee the country as the Taliban takes over once again. She's the founder of the Asia Pacific Network for Refugees. I spoke to her a short time ago.
I mean, the war in Afghanistan right now is really a deadlier and more destructive phase ever. This is really a different kind of war that we are facing. With the withdrawal of foreign forces, many people, in particular women, fear the prospect of resurgence of the Taliban, but few people were pessimistic enough to believe that the Taliban would really regain control over the country so quickly. The people of Afghanistan, especially women, have experienced 40 years of displacement, and it is really horrifying to see the rapid escalation of human sufferings and the displacement within the country. We are particularly concerned for the safety of women and girls and other human rights defenders in Afghanistan. It is the worst security situation ever for women and girls. We've been speaking to them day and night, especially in the past few days as the Taliban take over into the Kabul. A lot of them are describing themselves as having lost hope for peace and stability. A lot of them have been describing themselves, prisoners of their own gender. And for a lot of, women rights activists, women politicians, and the countless women leaders that we're in conversation right now and today, they are really scared for their lives. They're facing the fights of their life. Women are being held again to stay their home unless they're accompanied by a male. A lot of women are still being forced to marry the Taliban fighters. The girls are getting taken out of schools, and things are not, we're afraid that we're going to go back to the late 1990s and see that gender segregation very soon again, and seeing women and girls barred from their rights, from their basic rights, whether it is access to vote, whether it's access to employment, whether it's receiving education. This is what we are seeing now, and it's going to get worse.
So, Najeeba, there's no real hope that the Taliban is any different this time around in 2021, that there will be any greater freedoms for women and girls?
Not at all, not at all. Speaking to women on the ground just hours ago, as I said, they're describing that it's no longer about preserving the progress and the rights that they have gained. It's more about mere survival. And I think that's a true indication of what, it's happening right now on the ground.
Najeeba, the Prime Minister and the government announcing 3,000 humanitarian visas, refugee places from Afghanistan today. Do you welcome that?
I think we definitely welcome any positive steps that's being introduced so far by the government. But we do expect to see a higher leadership from the government. We've seen what some of the other international states like Canada and Germany has done, and I think Australia has so much more to offer. Refugees and displaced people must not really be a mere afterthoughts, but their needs must be given a priority. They are in great danger, and their protection is both a moral imperative, to those in position to help, including Australia, and also a matter of enlightened self-interest for governments wishing to see stability in the Asia-Pacific region. I think we need to do everything possible in coming days to evacuate as many people as possible, especially women and girls who are at grave risks within Afghanistan, who are those that have been working for the Australian government and Australian organizations. But again, I have to emphasize how important it is for us to be also able to evacuate the human rights defenders. We really need to see an increased, resettlement intake by the government and expanding, their efforts in ensuring that people are able to resettle in the country, in Australia, especially those that are in grave danger. And I think 3,000 is a very small number. We can do so much better than that. Canada just announced at 20,000. I think there's so much more that we can do. We have the capacity. We've done it in the past. We've done it with the Syrians. I'm sure we can do it this time as well.
How great is the threat outside of Kabul? We know that Kabul itself is under Taliban control now, and some hope for evacuation out of that capital city, with the airport having some semblance of control for the US and other authorities there. But what sort of hope is there for those outside of Kabul?
I mean, as I said, so many have already taken any means possible to actually leave the villages and leave those provinces, and move across the borders. And unfortunately, we're hearing from them that they're facing closed borders, by Iran and Pakistan and India and other places and elsewhere. A lot of them are, at least to the families that we've spoken so far, a lot of them have told us that they've lost children in war. They've actually lost daughters. Some of the women have actually been telling us us about, rape cases and how they've been trying to survive. So all of these are indication that, the country is not safe, especially the provinces that has already been overtaken and populated, by the Taliban forces. We know right now the Taliban is actually putting an act together just to see how, the international community going to respond in relation to them being either accepted as a legitimate government or not. So the Taliban has returned to power. We are afraid what more is going to happen to the country. They are going to reintroduce its notorious system of gender segregation, as it said, as it happened in late 1990s. And it is not Taliban's practice, to speak businesses, politics, or indeed peace with women. So we're not going to see any of that in the future. In fact, we will be seeing an escalation of, death and persecution, even in the city of Kabul in the next few days.
Najeeba Wazir Fadost, thank you for your time. I appreciate it at a difficult time for Afghanistan, another sad chapter.
Thank you so much.